Well, Senators Elizabeth Warren and Tom Coburn introducing bipartisan legislation calling for more clarity in financial settlement deals that government agencies make. Our Peter Barnes is standing by with none other than Senator Elizabeth Warren. Peter, take it away.
Well, hey, Cheryl, thank you. And we are with Senator Elizabeth Warren here to talk about this new legislation she announced yesterday with Senator Tom Coburn. This is the Truth in Settlement Act. What is the problem with all these settlements that we've been seeing and reading about, and what would your legislation do?
So you may remember last year, I really kind of raised a fuss, along with some other people, about why these agencies didn't take more of the big banks and other financial institutions to trial when they thought they'd done something wrong. And the response of the agencies was, hey, we're doing settlements, and the settlements are a great deal for the American taxpayer. So if it's a great deal for the American taxpayer, then why is it they don't want to give us full information about what the settlement is? What this law would require, the one I've just co-sponsored with Senator Coburn, is it would require the agencies to have to post online, here's what the settlement is, give the details of the settlement, so the American people can look at it and say, yeah, that looks like a good deal, or not. And it also requires the companies to have to post information. It's just transparency, good government.
Yeah, and a lot of this has to do with these, for example, deferred prosecution agreements. You're concerned about those, where, and also about potential credits against some of these settlements and penalties that we've seen in some of these settlements.
In fact, let me give you an example of that. So you remember the whole business about the mortgage servicing fraud that all came out. Well, one big settlement that got announced, and that was for $8.5 billion. Great headline, right? It turns out that about $5.2 billion of that were credits. Now, pay attention here. On the credits, it turned out that what one of the banks could do, or any of the banks could do, is they could give, let's say, a $10,000 credit against a $500,000 mortgage. So how much credit would they get if they gave $10,000?
Obviously not $10,000.
You're right. Yeah. They got credit then for the whole $500,000. So they weren't even giving anything up. So that settlement with the big headline, as much as 60% of that recovery that they were telling the taxpayers they were going to get, they weren't going to get. We need to make them tell.
Now, this week we also got a settlement from J.P. Morgan on the Madoff scandal, about $2 billion. And it turns out that there is no credit. This is, in fact, a penalty, so there's no tax deduction for it. Now, is that moving in the right direction? Is that the kind of thing you're trying to get to the bottom of?
You bet it's moving in the right direction. This one makes it public, says right up front they're not going to be able to get a tax deduction for this, because this is another one of the ways they've been hiding the real economic impact of these settlements, giving a big number, but then the company got a tax deduction for it, so it turned out the taxpayers were picking up part of the ticket. This particular settlement, they've moved in the right direction. We just want to make sure that we're pushing all the agencies to move in that direction.
Well, I have you. Last month, when you were up in Boston, you were asked if you're going to run for president, right. And you said no. Why not? And is the rest of the field, potentially Hillary Clinton, for example, progressive enough for you? That your supporters think that perhaps not.
Look, I am the senator from Massachusetts, and I'm working my heart out every single day to be the best senator I can. There is so much work to be done right here in the United States Senate. Work like the kind we're doing today on transparency in settlements, moving the bank regulators, but more work on student loans, work on the retirement crisis. I'm right here doing the work I was elected to do, and I'm going to keep on doing it.
And you did tell voters there that you plan to stay through the end of your term as senator, which is 2019.
I'm working. All right. I'm staying here.
Senator Elizabeth Warren, thanks for joining us again on Fox Business.
Thank you.
Cheryl and Dennis, back to you.
All right, Peter Barnes, thank you so much, and thanks to our Senator Warren for that first on Fox Business interview. Thank you, Peter.